Hello, so in this video we're going to take a look at a games console by a company called ATGAMES, and this is, as you can see, actually a Sega Mega Drive classic games console with 80 games in it. That must be why the company's called ATGAMES. It's called the Genesis in America, it's called the Mega Drive in the UK for licensing reasons. This is a mini console fully licensed by Sega. It's not a proper Sega Mega Drive. I used to own a Sega Mega Drive when I was a kid. I've still got one actually in a cupboard, but it's too sort of buried deep in the cupboard to get it out. So I've done what every Western spoilt person does and bought a new one. We'll talk about some of the games and we'll take a look at the console itself. So firstly, this cost me about £25, which is very cheap, and that's because I got this second-hand off eBay. They don't really seem to sell this one in the red box anymore. They've replaced it with a blue one with wired controllers, I believe. That currently costs about £55. And for £80 you can get yourself an HD version of this, which has got radio controlled controllers and an HD output. So obviously this is going to look kind of pixelated on your big LCD screen, so you can get the HD one if you want. But I thought I'd go cheap because the games are pretty well the same across all of them. This will quench my thirst for some retro gaming. So firstly, what do you get inside the box? Well, you get a games controller. Now, unlike the real games controllers, this actually uses infrared. It doesn't have a wire coming out of it like the original. If you look at the reviews online of this, people say that there's a delay or lag when you press buttons on the controller. I didn't find that. You just have to sit close enough to the infrared sensor on the games console. And I think that's probably why in the later versions they went to a wired version. It feels cheaper than the original Mega Drive one. But to be honest, people complain, but I thought this was all right. And this is the device itself. It's incredibly small, as you can see. Tiny little thing, light as anything. Some little rubber pads on the back. On the top here, probably the most interesting thing is that there is actually a slot for your games cartridge. So if you have got your old Mega Drive games lying around, you can actually put them in this console and use it. There are a couple of buttons on the front as well. One's a power button and one's a reset button. On the front of the device, you've got the infrared sensor, and as I said, you can probably get away with being about that far away before you start to notice any sort of lag. There are actually, on the front of the device, a couple of sockets for your actual Sega Mega Drive controllers. So if you got those, then you can plug your actual games controllers in for a much better experience. On the back of the device, audio and video. So this doesn't actually include an AV cable, but I had one lying around to plug that into my television. But really what it looks like isn't that important. What's important is the gameplay and the games on the device. On the front of the box, they make a big point of showing Sonic, because Sonic's every Sega fan's hero, I guess. And the ones they list on the front are Sonic Spinball, which I'd never played, but Sonic and Knuckles, which I did kind of play, but not a huge amount. Original Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic 2 and Sonic 3D, and then Mortal Kombat 1, 2 and 3, which are all big titles. I think at some stage I've played most of those. But on the back of the box we have a complete list of all the games. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go through them one by one. Actually, I'm probably not going to do that. That's very boring. I'll skip to the ones that are interesting. So Alex Kidd, I had that actually as a built-in game on my Sega Master System, and it wasn't very good, but I think that may have been Alex Kidd 2 or something, because I didn't recognise this version of Alex Kidd at all. Altered Beast, I'd heard of. I went to play it and it was really boring. Now I have to say that that's true for a lot of games on this, and to be honest, some of the title games aren't as good as I remember. Columns. Now Columns on this is basically a kind of Sega version of Tetris, a fantastically addictive game, and I'm still playing it, not on this device but on sort of emulators and things online at the moment. I'm absolutely addicted. If you do like that, for some reason there isn't Columns 2, but there is Columns 3 on here, so you can have a go at that as well. Do you know, I've never heard of any of these. Eternal Champions, Fatal Labyrinth, Flicky, Gain Ground, never heard of them. But then we get to Golden Axe and Golden Axe 2 and Golden Axe 3, and I remember those, and they're actually easy to play, a bit of fun. Golden Axe 1 particularly My favourite thing there is these little tiny sort of elfy things or snaily things with potions in their backpack, potions and food. That's quite cool. Recommend you have a look at that. Mortal Kombat. Now, maybe I'm completely wrong. I never played it that much. I played it a bit. I was going to get my coffee. But I was playing Mortal Kombat. I was just mashing the buttons in the end to try and get my character to do anything cool. And I couldn't do it. I just kept dying. I'd get past the sort of first round and then I'd just get slaughtered. Is there actually a knack to playing Mortal Kombat? Shinobi. The good thing I'll say about that is it's quite straightforward and it's quite easy to get through the game. That's a sort of ninja game where you've got to sort of fire daggers and things at your enemies and jump over stuff and climb walls. That game wasn't too bad. All the Sonic games are really good fun, especially Sonic 2, but that does bring me on to one of the other problems with this device that's mentioned online. So a lot of people say that the gameplay is very, very slow and the sound is a problem on the device. And to be honest, that is true. The gameplay is slightly slower, but yeah, the sound is abnormally slow on this device. Sonic is probably about 10% slower than it should be, and I don't know why, but did it bother me that much? No, not really. If you're really that obsessed about the extra 10%, maybe you should go online and buy a proper Sega Mega Drive, which isn't that expensive, and a copy of Sonic. I am interested to know though, that if you've got the HD version of this, or the one in the same box but with blue on the side, do you have the same sound problem with Sonic 2? Is it slightly slow? Let me know down below, because I would consider getting another one of these if they fixed the sound problem. But once we get to Vectorman 2, things start to go a bit downhill. So the first half of the games on this, so 40 of the games, are title games that you probably will recognise. And I would say probably a quarter of those are interesting to play. So 10 of the games are worth a play, and I think that probably is about right, maybe a tad more. But the remaining half appear to be almost like independent games. They haven't even got like a box artwork, which is really strange, and the gameplay on them is terrible. I was a bit disappointed on this device that it didn't come with Street Fighter, which was an old favourite of mine, and Micro Machines. But I thought I found a game that looked a little bit like Micro Machines called Bottle Taps Race. It had a sort of track that looked a bit like the Micro Machines track. Thought maybe this will be my Micro Machines replacement. And you know what? It really isn't. It's really rubbish. So basically you move the arrow pad to change the direction that you're going to fire the counter in, and then there's a sort of slider that goes up and down. You have to hit it at the right time to get the power you want to not go off the edge of the track. But the computer player never gets a single move wrong. It is possible to beat them, but they never ever get it wrong. And the physics is wrong, so when they fire theirs, it looks like their counter's going to fire off the table, but it doesn't. It's just a really terrible game. And to be honest, I ran out of enthusiasm looking through all of these games. If I had a bit more spare time or the kind of will, I think, you know, there's a lot of fun here to be had for £25. I will leave a link to this down below, actually, in case you want to check it out for yourself, because if you are a fan of the original Mega Drive, this isn't so bad. You know, a lot of people really rip into this, but, you know, as long as you keep the game's controllers close enough, as long as you're not expecting that this is going to replace your Mega Drive, there are 80 games that are worth a look at. Well, at least 10 of them are worth a look at. Anyway, that's about it. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you've got one of these or one of the better ones, let me know. Let me know what you think of it, whether you think I'm right, that this is actually not that bad despite what people have said. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time for another video.